Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aqila binti Yusuf as the host for our discussion today. So, before we start, I would like our guests to introduce themselves first.
Hi, I will introduce myself. My name is Adla Zafira binti.
My name is Anis Fitria binti Muhammad Hafiz.
Guys, I'm Nurul Natasha binti Muhammad Fitri.
My name is Eniza Eliza binti Azmi.
Hi, my name is Shazali binti Sofi.
My name Nurpatini binti Mahyadin.
Hello, my name is Siti Aisyah binti Ruslan.
Thank you everyone. So, lately COVID-19 pandemic is spreading to many countries, including Malaysia. Restriction made to limit the spread and impact to COVID-19 had a far-reaching impact on people's life and the way energy is used across entire economies. It is also involved in influencing all forms of transportation, from cars and public transport in the city to buses and trains and international aircraft. This is supported by a smartphone application on transportation planning, which shows that travel has dropped by more than 90% since the crisis began in many major cities in Malaysia. So, the question is, what is the impact of COVID-19 on the transportation segment, on Malaysian travel and tourism industry? So, let's discuss. So, my first question, what is the impact of COVID-19 on transportation segment? Who want to answer this? Fatini?
Yes, I am. Let me answer this question. The growing of COVID-19 has impact on the transportation sector. The pressure on organizations during this coronavirus pandemic has shifted from moving citizens to keeping a core transportation system operational with a skeleton workforce to ensure freight and key essential workers can continue to move. A secondary effect to this shift is the sudden change in source of revenue for transportation operators, with many experiencing organizations will need to plan ahead to ensure that the transportation network will be ready for a return to normal operations when the coronavirus pandemic lockdown measures are lifted.
Thank you, Fatini, for your answer. We can say that transportation industry also very impressed with this pandemic. So, question 2, I will give to Shazani Sopi. My question is, as we know, airplane is the most affected in the transportation industry during the pandemic. So, will you explain about this?
Thank you Akila for the question. So, airline industry player has highlighted that the current travel bans and plummeting demand around the world have put the loss-making carrier at risk of bankrupt. All three Malaysian major airlines, namely ASM, Malindo Air and Malaysia Airlines, have initiated salary cut from 10% to 100% and unpaid leave depending on the salary range and position. Nevertheless, the airline industry faced its grievous crisis. The drastic loss of both revenue and profit for all three major Malaysian-based airlines, which has resulted in a high risk of bankrupt, has caused the airlines to ask the government of Malaysia to step in to provide support to the airline industry.
Thank you for your answer. I can see that this airline suffered a huge loss due to the existence of a movement control order. So, my third question will be given to Siti Aisyah. You choose to talk about public transport. So, how are you going to say about this related to the tourism industry during this pandemic?
COVID-19 has impacted the Grab business. Many Grab drivers have to return their rental car, and booking are also getting smaller. This is also an effect to the tourism, as the tourists are unable to go to the place they want to visit. This is because due to the lack of driver. For example, if there are tourists who come on vacation without vehicle, that's quite difficult for them to move from one place to another place. Due to the lack of cloud vehicle, services are Grab or even rental cars.
Okay, thank you. So I can say that Grab also important to the tourists if they want to go to anywhere they want. Okay, so next question. Since the occurrence of COVID-19, what are the impact on crisis in Malaysia? So, what's your opinion, Adila Zafira?
So, thank you Akila for the questions. Yes, I will. So, in my opinion, in the wake of the COVID-19, there will likely be a significant financial impact on revenue for all cruise operators, and they have to face the double challenge of ensuring visitor and worker safety. Furthermore, due to the COVID-19, some cruises will not to be able to disembark and repatriate clients, thus losses in bookings and revenues, which could make it more difficult for many cruise liners to attract customers and result in closures.
Thank you, Adila Zafira. So here it can be said that the cruises has suffered a lot of financial losses since the pandemic, right? Okay, next question. Based on Anis Fitria's point, you say that the capacity of passengers in every transportation has to reduce. So, can you explain more about this?
Of course, I will. As we know, pandemic COVID-19 affect tourists who want to travel domestic or overseas. If we look, the transport as buses, trains, airplanes and taxi at this time has reduced the capacity of sitting in public transport because to prevent COVID-19 virus. For example, one of the step is social distancing. So when on the bus, the original capacity was 44 passengers, but due to this pandemic, the public transport sector has limits their passenger on the bus to prevent this pandemic. That's all from me.
Okay, good job, Anis Fitria. I can see your point. This can be related to what we are experiencing right now, where everyone need to stand 1 meter away, right? Okay. My last question. After hearing all the impact, what are the steps to address this pandemic on transportation industry? Someone answer this?
I'm Natasha and I will suggest some steps to overcome the crisis. Among the steps are transportation leaders will be defined by what they do alone and 3 dimensions to managing a crisis, which is respond, recover and thrive. Some key next steps include: first, determine the cost and revenue implications of low ridership and protect core assets. Second, protect the availability of key personnel and use training to build up a longer pool of available workers of key roles. And the last one, engage with government and other statements to determine the key.
Everything surely will have their own solution. Thank you, Natasha, for your suggestion steps. So, last but not least, before we stop, Amiza Liza, can you give the conclusion of our discussion today?
In conclusion, we as a Malaysian society should be more sensitive about the COVID-19 pandemic today. Furthermore, in terms of transportation segment of the Malaysian travel industry and tourists will be worried as they have to cancel booking and postpone plan to return to Malaysia due to concerns about the virus. Therefore, we must reduce the movement to a place to overcome this pandemic.
Thank you everyone for answering my question. That's all from us. May all the listeners gain some information about the impact of COVID-19 on the transportation segment and tourism industry. So thank you and bye.